Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump will rejoin Twitter. That is a certainty. And I told everybody that Elon Musk would purchase the company. Years back, I said Clinton would lose to Trump. I've been telling the world that the absurd Steele dossier, Alpha Bank stories that the Durham Probe Special Counsel is now, deemed as complete fantasy. We all knew this, but the Durham Probe Special Counsel is investigating things that I wrote about in the Federalist in 2019. Type in H.A. Goodman Federalist. You could read my writing in the Federalist about the Durham Probe Special Counsel. I told you in October of 2021, read my article in the Federalist. It's below in the pinned comment. We're heading towards a stock market crash because of the policies of mashed potato brains and the Democratic Party. I have predicted a great many things. Now, am I right about everything? No, I have not been right about everything. That's for sure. But even when I'm wrong, I have the pulse of what's going on. Donald Trump's going to be back on Twitter. And it's going to happen after Elon Musk alters the algorithm to an open source, platform. So here's what he stated. Twitter has become a kind of de facto town square. It's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they're able to speak freely within the bounds of the law. Within the bounds of the law. So if you don't like a mean, horrible monster of a person, simply block them or report them to the authorities. Like when I had a threat on me and my life, I literally went to the police department, literally went to the LAPD and filed a police report on the Twitter profile because I was able to show the direct messages, the actual, statements made, and I actually filed a police report with using just the Twitter profile. I didn't have the person's name. Okay? And the police report was made because the officer I spoke to was able to look at the messages and deem those messages as worthy of a police report, utilizing just the profile. Okay, you can also simply block the person. So if you don't like Trump's tweets, or if you don't like information or analysis or opinion or theories or viewpoints, then simply don't look at them. You don't have to worry about them. There's a million ways if you really want to be on Twitter. I don't have Twitter. Since that time period, I don't have Twitter for years and years now. I don't have Facebook. If you see anybody impersonating me, report them. But this nonsense, he's going to join Twitter once it becomes open source. But Elon Musk talked about it's really important that that people speak freely within the bounds of the law. It is not Twitter's algorithm right now or guidelines or rules that govern society. What governs society is laws that exist. Speech, you cannot say certain things, and that was the same way even before Twitter. But you hear this nonsense, oh, Trump's going to be back, and this person's going to be back, and, Carlson and Jones and Taylor Greene and all these people are going to go ahead and say really bad, mean things, and people will believe them. Then you refute their arguments with logic and rational discourse, debate, discussion, utilize reason. Okay? I debated and defeated the, supremacy nationalist argument, debating Richard Spencer on YouTube. Okay? I oppose his ideology or ideas. I disagree, oppose. I find them terrible for humanity. So then I had a discussion and a debate where I utilized reason, and you can watch the last 20 minutes of H.A. Goodman debating Richard Spencer and defeating his ideas. The last 20 minutes of that debate. I used logic, reason, discourse to defeat really, really harmful ideas That's how you defeat ideas. Watch the last 20 minutes of that debate. It's on my website, hagoodman.com. I also defeated, with ideas, logic, reason, discourse, the whole message board absurd Q nonsense. And I debated Jordan Sather. You can see that on my website, hagoodman.com, and it's on my YouTube channel also. You could see those two debates. I vehemently disagreed and opposed those ideas. And I utilized my intellect, wisdom, intelligence, debate, my ability to express my viewpoints in a coherent, rational, logical manner to defeat other viewpoints I consider harmful. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I have a very important segment on Sri Lanka, on Germany. So many things are taking place around the world. We're heading towards a devastating stock market crash globally, and I predicted all of this. But the way the left is today, and Democrats and media, that they don't have the ability to counter ideologies they oppose. Because they utilize those ideologies to promote an emotional response to what they are advocating. It's not so much defeating opposing ideologies. I've gotten text messages from friends. I oppose you. I've known you for so long, and I oppose you. Why would I care if someone opposes my viewpoints? Tell me why you oppose me. You're voting for Trump. He's an authoritarian. How can he be an authoritarian when he signs the First Step Act and he negotiates the Doha Agreement, and we had record low Black and Latino unemployment, and he literally signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses? So tell me, please, how he's an authoritarian when he doesn't want to censor or suppress or prevent anyone from saying anything. Democracy to Democrats is silencing people and blaming one country in particular for everything. This is democracy. Cold War hysteria, McCarthy-era nonsense, Red Scare, absurd fantasies. But if you don't like somebody, you oppose them with reason and logic, not with your indignation. Indignation and outrage is meaningless. Christopher Hitchens would look at today's Democratic Party and say, my God, I don't know if he would vote for Trump, but he certainly would never vote Democrat. He might actually vote for Trump. But he would be viewed like Jordan Peterson. Christopher Hitchens would be viewed in the same light as Jordan Peterson, and anyone who says, hey, you know what, I don't have, these viewpoints are nonsense, and here's why. You defeat ideas through better ideas. This isn't rocket science, okay? If you don't like somebody or something, or the words, or the behavior, or the sensibilities, or the attitude of somebody on social media, you block them. You prevent them from communicating with you. It is simple. If you oppose their ideas, then you defeat their ideas using reason and logic. This isn't difficult. It's very difficult for the morally superior, always apoplectic, but highly educated liberal Democrats. They don't want to actually debate ideas. That's why AOC has essentially stated that never in a million trillion years would there ever be a debate with Ben Shapiro. Could you imagine that debate? Could you imagine pure emotion versus logic and reason? You could disagree with Ben Shapiro, but the man is not going to appeal to logic or authority. He's going to appeal to logic, but Ben Shapiro is not going to appeal to emotion. He's not the arguments on from Bernie Sanders, AOC, Pelosi, the Democratic Party is purely fueled by emotion. If there's a tragedy, a horrible massacre with some deranged person using a firearm, Democrats, gleefully say, "You see, we need more laws." The criminal didn't follow the existing laws within the blue state where he committed these crimes. Do you not understand? It's all emotion. It's all, see, I'm right. See, we're right. No, you're not. There's no actual discussion because you can't get into one. Because then you start getting into, well, if your policies worked, why are fossil fuels? You want to save the planet? Why are fossil fuels at record highs? You explain. Why is inflation at record highs if you care so much about wealth inequality? If you care so much about systemic injustices, why do Democrats preside over the cities and states, mainly the cities and counties, where there's the most systemic injustices and the greatest wealth inequality? And why are Democratic mayors and politicians presiding over all of this? It's an illusion with Democrats and media and morally superior liberal pundits and professors. And why don't you pick on the map the greatest the cities with the greatest problems in terms of wealth inequality, supremacy, nationalism, prejudice? Where are the cities with the worst systemic injustices? You will see that you could very likely have, Andrew Cuomo or Chuck Schumer or Pelosi presiding over those cities with the greatest wealth inequality. San Francisco and New York, there's even more so, far more than any other city, have the greatest disparity in wealth. You will have literally billionaires living next to people on the street. And San Francisco and New York are the most liberal cities in the country. But you can't, this is the thing, Donald Trump, if you don't like him on Twitter, he's going to get back on Twitter once it becomes... So he continues to say any changes to people's tweets, if they're emphasized or de-emphasized, that action should be made apparent so anyone can see that the action has been taken, so there's no sort of behind-the-scenes manipulation, either algorithmically or manually. Okay? Twitter is a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party to go and utilize against anyone they don't like. Oh, Trump has been deemed to compel violent behavior. Well, then why wasn't he indicted? Huh? Oh, he's indicted in the court of public opinion within the digital nightmare, within the cyber scourge of Twitter, but not by the mayor of D.C., the attorney general of D.C., Merrick Garland, the attorney general of the United States of America. Nope, they haven't leveled any charges against Trump. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe he wasn't guilty of what they're claiming he's guilty of, but he was on Twitter. Twitter is a place that you can actually condemn people, judge people, incarcerate people digitally, but not in real life. Cancel, ban them, suspend them, make sure that, the way Democrats work is their ideas are horrible. Like liberal ideas, many of them, they used to be great. Today's liberals are different from yesterday's liberals. Completely different. So all you have right now, go to your favorite million sub YouTube channel, 1 million to 4 million sub. I'm not going to give you names, but vote blue no matter who channels. They're obsessed over Marjorie Taylor Greene and libertarians and Rand Paul. And oh my God, look at this argument. Oh, look at that argument. Can you believe what Republicans think about this or that? It's like record high inflation. Do you not get that? Food prices, energy prices through the roof. The same people you claim to care about, working class people, have a worse time under President Mashed Potato Brains than they ever did under Trump. The media melted down under Trump, but everyone was doing well. Economically, everybody was doing fine. The country was doing fine until the last year of his presidency when unelected officials, journalists, and wonderful experts said, we have to tank everything. Stop the entire economy. Yeah, just stop everything. Just like a light switch. Turn it off. Just end all economic activity. It's the best thing to do. They Trump-Russian everything. Everything Democrats touch is an apoplectic obsession that if you don't listen to them, oh my God, and they were able to get away with all of this in this kind of manic, manner with the algorithms on Twitter. You know what? 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 conservative voices. Suspend any dissent, doctors, professionals, experts, anyone who dissenting opinion. They're erased. That's what the Democrats, yay, erase them, yeah. It's democracy. Max Boot is saying that more speech is bad for democracy. Well, of course he doesn't want that. Then you would have more people looking at his advocacy and the advocacy of the Lincoln Project and Bill Kristol and all these people on the never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts we've had because of their views. They've never been right, and not once have they been right about a foreign policy decision, not once. But they have the Washington Post, owned by, that's right, the Amazon founder. Oh, interesting. Who just accused Elon Musk of being, an operative of another country, and country that Hunter and James and Joe are linked to with tens of millions of dollars in consulting deals. But you won't get that information from the Washington Post, will you? You'll get it from the New York Post, who was suspended on Twitter not long ago, 2 years ago. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why the New York Post was suspended, but BuzzFeed wasn't suspended when it published the Steele dossier. And it said it's unverified. We'll let the people decide. When it's lies and deceitful nonsense purchased by Trump's direct political rival, the DNC and Madam Secretary, we'll let the people decide. Let the people decide. Let the people decide. It's raw intelligence. But anything detrimental to Democrats, another country wants you to know. Well, how do you know this? How do you know that the Kremlin wanted Trump? Maybe James Clapper said, and CNN said. Do you have any evidence at all? Have you ever read the ODNI report? What's that? Well, it says it's the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper's report, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, and the report says that, by the way, they're only highly to moderately confident. Highly to moderately confident. There's no evidence at all. Oh, and by the way, nobody, and God bless Julian Assange, he should be free, but nobody from Assange to anyone in Trump's administration, to Donald Trump himself, has ever been charged or indicted with working with a foreign intelligence official. But that doesn't stop the conspiratorial theorists on the wonderful left, who are so rational and highly educated and moral, and they're wonderful, from believing that anything from anybody from Tulsi Gabbard to Bernie Sanders, who's a tool of the Democratic Party, Bernie is, to Trump, to Tucker Carlson, to anybody else, is an operative of the Kremlin. It's like they believe, these people mock and try to denigrate Republicans for believing things that aren't true, but then they believe they're mired in the most absurd fantasies, because then they say, the government said so. It's like everyone who was born before 1980 is laughing when you say this. Not even 1985, or maybe even before 1990. If you talk to anyone born before 1990, and you say, the government said this is good. They laugh. That's like have you ever heard that? If you were born before 1990, the government said yeah. Nobody trusted, even in this country. After Watergate, nobody trusted the government, or very few people just simply trusted the government blindly, without any criticism, without any critique. But you have tens of millions of people. James Clapper and John Brennan, they're apolitical. So is James Comey and Peter Strzok. They're all apolitical. Yeah, right. They picked one side, and now the Durham Probe Special Counsel is investigating them. Trump is going to rejoin because it's a platform. If it's a platform that has this open source, like it's not an algorithm that just simply parrots Democratic Party talking points, and he can actually express his views without caution. This viewpoint could lead you to what Vladimir wants, and this is a harmful viewpoint deemed wrong by people, journalists at the New York Times and the Washington Post. Caution! With blinking lights and everything. It's like, are you serious? Who believes this? Who looks at this and says, oh, that's good, they're protecting democracy? And when did democracy become a synonym for the Democratic Party? This is bad for democracy. Whenever they say that, just replace that word with Democratic Party. That's what they mean. Democracy has nothing to do with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Nothing. Democracy is the antithesis of how a political party functions, cheating their own candidates like Democrats do with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was cheated. This will be the only time you hear that today from me. The only time that anyone ever hears it. Nobody ever says it anymore, but you will hear it from me every day, probably 10 times a day, forever. 50 years from now, Bernie was cheated. I'll still be saying it. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below. I had my satirical channel, a comedy channel. I'm thinking, you know what? I might do something a bit different with Indicted in Prison 45 channel, pure comedy and satire. So, anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe around. He's rejoining Twitter when it becomes, hopefully, the platform that Elon Musk has stated, a platform where free speech, you can actually talk. Again, here's a public service announcement to wonderful, beautiful, highly educated, liberal Democrats and good people on the left and people who don't like prejudice and all the wonderful people out there who will condemn and judge and pontificate and preach and give sermons on morality, while they always vote Democrat, vote blue no matter who. If you don't like somebody on any social media network, okay, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, simply block the person. This way you will never have to hear what the person says. Don't engage with mean or horrible people. This way, you silence them without having a dystopian nightmare of a platform silencing everybody, like Twitter used to be. And if you disagree with ideas, you find them repulsive, then defeat them. And if you're so petrified that people will agree with ideas that you don't like, then defeat those ideas with logic and reason if you have logic and reason. If not, get somebody with logic and reason and who's able to debate and have an intelligent conversation to defeat viewpoints that people find terrible and harmful. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now.